The legendary planet archetype, known in the Japanese as the Planet Series, is a group of cards named after the 9 major planets in our solar system, along with the Sun. To you enlightened Rick and Morty fans out there, you may say that Pluto is not a planet. Well, at the time of the series' creation, Pluto was classed as one, so yeah. Moving on. The cards made their debut in the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX manga, created by Aster Phoenix's father whilst he was under the mind control of Tragoedia. Yes, that guy. The reason for their creation was that the cards could suckle a small amount of energy from their users and transfer it back to Tragoedia in order for him to resurrect himself. Fun fact, all of the cards in the archetype, excluding Terra Firma, use English characters in their OCG names, making them unique in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game, because only a few other cards do this. So how about we take a look at each planet in the set, starting with the planet furthest away from the Sun. The suppression, Pluto. Once per turn you can declare one card name, look at your opponent's hand, and if they have the declared card in their hand, apply one of these effects. Take control of one monster your opponent controls, destroy one spell or trap card your opponent controls, then you can set a destroyed spell or trap card on your field. The suppression, Pluto, was wielded by Atticus Rhodes in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga. We might as well start by talking about the elephant in the room, or should I say the dwarf planet in the solar system. To be classed as a planet, you have to meet the following criteria. 1. You need to orbit the Sun. 2. Have sufficient mass for its self-gravity to overcome rigid body forces so that it assumes a hydrostatic equilibrium shape, which, to you and me, simply means it needs to be a round shape. And 3, it has to have cleared out the neighbourhood around its orbit. Pluto has accomplished the first 2 of this criteria, but the last one, it does not. Clearing the neighbourhood, which is a term that means that the planet has either consumed or ejected all the other objects in its vicinity of space. In a phrase, the planet has achieved gravitational dominance. Pluto is sadly not tough enough to have kicked out all the other objects in its space. So, after 76 years of being classed as a planet, it has now been stripped of its planetary designation, now moving itself into the category of dwarf planet. Now knowing all that, this makes the suppression Pluto to be the only dwarf planet in the set. I'm going to be doing this for all the planets so you can compare them, but a day on Pluto is 6.4 Earth days, or 153.3 hours long. Let's see you say there's not enough hours in a day on Pluto, eh? Also, it takes 249 years for Pluto to revolve around the Sun, meaning that if I had lived on Pluto my entire life, I would be 0.102 Plutonian years old, as opposed to my 25 Earth years. I feel so young. From a design point, the monster card, the Suppression Pluto, may be a nod to Osamu Tezuka's manga character, Pluto, a pivotal villainous character from the Astro Boy series. The Tyrant Neptune. Cannot be special summoned. You can tribute summon this card by tributing one monster. This card gains the total original attack and defense of the monsters tributed for its tribute summon. When this card is tribute summoned, target one effect monster in your graveyard that was tributed for the tribute summon of this card. This card's name becomes that target's name, and this card gains that target's effect. The Tyrant Neptune was wielded by Jim Crocodile Cook in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga. The card is based on the planet Neptune, which is the 8th and farthest known planet from the Sun in the solar system. Let's get some stats up for the planet, shall we? In the solar system, it is the 4th largest planet by diameter, with a mass 17 times more than that of Earth's. The surface gravity on Neptune is only 14% stronger than that of Earth's gravity. But before you start thinking, well, why don't we go there instead of Mars? Well, apart from being quite a long way away, it is actually impossible to stand up on the planet since the only solid part of it is its rocky core made of ice. All the other layers are made of things like ammonia, water, methane, helium and hydrogen, things you definitely can't stand on, which means that Neptune is basically just one big gassy planet. A day on Neptune is 16 hours and 6 minutes long. It also takes 165 years for it to revolve around the Sun, meaning that if I had lived on Neptune my entire life, I would be 0.15 Neptunian years old. This card was, interestingly, the first legendary planet card to be forbidden in the trading card game. And from what I have researched, one of its main reasons for being banned is this combo. Tribute summon Neptune off Lyrical Lucinia, Independent Nightingale, which, keep in mind, can be summoned off instant fusion, making it very easy to get out. This will then make you have a monster with
8,300
attack. As well, it has the ability to inflict 5,000 burn damage a turn, and is immune to card effects. So that kind of makes sense it was banned, really. The Despair Uranus. When this card is tribute summoned while you control no spell or trap cards, you can activate this effect. Your opponent declares either continuous spell or continuous trap, then you set one card of that type directly from your deck. This card gains 300 attack for each face-up spell or trap card you control. Face-up cards in your spell and trap card zone cannot be destroyed by card effects. The Despair Uranus was wielded by Adrian Gecko in the Yu-Gi-Oh manga. This monster is based on Uranus, the 7th planet from the sun. Uranus is 4 times bigger than Earth in terms of diameter, meaning volume-wise you could fit 63 Earths inside of Uranus. Imagine that, 63 planets inside Uranus. I'm too immature for this. Uranus's gravity, despite the massive size of the planet, you may be surprised to learn is only 89% that of Earth's gravity. Meaning if you were to stand on Uranus, well, you'd feel 11% lighter. Also, in comparison to Earth, a day on Uranus is 17 hours and 14 minutes long. And it takes 84 years to revolve around the sun. Meaning that if I lived on Uranus my entire life, I would be 0.3 Uranian years old. The Big Saturn. Can it be special summoned from the hand or deck? Once per turn, you can discard one card and pay 1,000 life points. This card gains 1,000 attack until the end phase. When this card in your possession is destroyed by your opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, both players take damage equal to this card's attack in the graveyard. The Big Saturn was wielded by David Rabb in the Yu-Gi-Oh manga. The monster is based on Saturn, the 6th planet from the sun and the 2nd largest in the solar system. Saturn is 9.5 times bigger than the diameter of Earth, meaning that with its huge volume, you could fit 764 Earths inside Saturn. Woofed. And that's only the 2nd biggest planet. However, size isn't everything. As you'll be interested to find out, Earth is the densest planet in the solar system, while Saturn is the least dense. Meaning that if we were to turn these planets into characters from the film Unbreakable, Earth would be Bruce Willis and Saturn would be Mr. Glass. Please nobody push Saturn down the stairs. Don't do it. Now, the Big Saturn has a ring around it in obvious homage to the ring around Saturn. Why does Saturn have a ring? Well, no one is actually 100% sure. However, it is hypothesized that one of Saturn's 62 moons may have crashed into each other, causing it to break up into a ton of pieces. Over time, those pieces began to orbit the planet in a ring-like shape. However, in comparison to Earth, a day on Saturn is 10 hours and 42 minutes long. And it takes 29 years to revolve around the sun, meaning that if I had lived on Saturn my entire life, I would be 0.86 Saturnian years old. These words. The Big Saturn card is the only legendary planet that has not been printed in an ultra or secret rare in the TCG. And this card's arms appear in the artwork of replacement parts. The Grand Jupiter. Once per turn, you can discard 2 cards and target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Equip that face-up monster to this card. This card gains attack equal to the combined original attack of the monster equipped to it by its effect. Once per turn, during the end phase, you can target one monster card equipped to this card by this card's effect. Special summon it to your field. The Grand Jupiter was wielded by Asta Phoenix in the Yu-Gi-Oh manga. It is based on Jupiter, the 5th planet from the sun and the largest in the solar system. Jupiter is 11 times the diameter of Earth, and as such, volume-wise, Jupiter could fit 1,300 Earths inside of it. Since it's so big, Jupiter's gravity is 2.4 times that of Earth's, so you'd be very heavy on there. Also, in comparison to Earth, a day on Jupiter is 9 hours and 56 minutes. Very short days there. Also, it would take 11.86 years to revolve around the sun, meaning that if I had lived on Jupiter my entire life, I would be 2.15 Jovian years old. This card may be the manga equivalent of Asta Phoenix's Destiny Hero Plasma, since both the cards share the same type and level as well as a similar effect. Furthermore, both cards were created by Asta Phoenix's father before his murder, with the Light of Destruction possessed the D, stealing Plasma, and Tragoedia forcing the creation of the Jupiter. The Grand Jupiter can be seen as the opposite counterpart to Elemental Hero Terra Firma as well. Both cards share the same attack, defense, and type. Elemental Hero Terra Firma is shown with light white armor, while this monster has dark armor. Terra Firma appears with a sphere behind him, while the Grand Jupiter contains a sphere inside of him. The fact they are counterparts is perfect as well because it reflects their owners, Asta Phoenix and Jaden Yuki, who are rivals in their series they come from. As well, they both both use a variant of a hero deck. The Blazing Mars. While this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can banish 3 other monsters from your graveyard, special summon this card. Also, you can unspecial summon other monsters for the rest of this turn. During your main phase 1, you can send all other monsters you control to the graveyard. Inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each monster sent to the graveyard. You can only use the effect of the Blazing Mars once per turn. The Blazing Mars was wielded by Axel Brody in the Yu-Gi-Oh manga. It is based on Mars, the 4th planet from the Sun and the 2nd smallest planet in the solar system. It is in fact just over half the size of Earth. And due to this smaller size, it also means Mars's gravity is weaker than that of Earth's. In fact, Mars is about 38% that of Earth's gravity. Based on this card's colour scheme and the colour of Mars itself, it is rightly so it would earn the name the Red Planet as opposed to our own Blue Planet. The reason for these colour differences is because Earth is made up of 70% water, whereas in contrast, Mars has no water on its surface and is covered with simply rock and dust. You can see why people think Mars is a pretty sweet Earth 2 choice, as a day on Mars in comparison to Earth is almost identical. 1 day on Mars is equal to 1 day and 37 minutes on Earth. Woof. 37 minutes off, so close. Also, it takes 1.88 years to revolve around the Sun, meaning that if I had lived on Mars my entire life, I would be 13.5 Martian years old. Now I feel quite young. Elemental Hero Terra Firma. Requires Elemental Hero Ocean and Elemental Hero Woodsman to be summoned. Must be fusion summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways. You can tribute 1 face-up Elemental Hero monster card. This card gains attack equal to the tributed monster's attack until the end phase. Elemental Hero Terra Firma was wielded by Jaden Yuki in the Yu-Gi-Oh manga. In fact, it was his original ace monster. Terra Firma is based on our very own planet, Earth, the 3rd planet from the Sun, and the only object in the universe so far known to harbour life. It is believed that Earth formed over 4.5 billion years ago, and she's still looking quite young. I'm hoping you don't need me to tell you any more Earth facts because you've lived on the planet long enough. The name Terra Firma comes from either the Portuguese solid ground or the Latin solid earth. In fact, if you look at the artwork of Terra Firma, you can actually see the earth itself in the background of this monster's artwork. This card is very similar to Elemental Hero Neos, with the both of them having the same attack defense appearance, as well as being the ace monsters of the series protagonists, and as well their ability to use other monsters to become stronger. Contact Fusion for Neos, and Terra Firma with his absorption effect. They also represent opposites to humans. Neos represents space above, and Terra Firma represents Earth below. And this monster has an upgraded form known as Elemental Hero Core, which probably represents the core of the planet. The similarities include they both have similar designs and colour schemes, they are both the same attribute and type, and Core is 1 level greater with 200 extra attack and defense. Elemental Hero Terra Firma's attack is the combination of both its materials, Woodsman and Ocean. It was the first planet monster to appear in the manga, and is the only planet card to be a fusion monster, whereas all the other types are effect monsters. This card, along with the Grand Jupiter, are the only legendary planets not to be used by a villainous or brainwash character. Splendid Venus. Its effect is all non-fairy monsters lose 500 attack and defense. The activation and effects of spell or trap cards activated on your field cannot be negated. Splendid Venus was wielded by Reggie Mackenzie in the Yu-Gi-Oh manga. Splendid Venus is based on the planet Venus, the 2nd planet from the Sun. Guess what? A day on Venus takes 243 Earth days, making it the planet with the longest rotation period. Remember when I said a day on Pluto took like 6 days? Well, I guess this one takes the cake. However, speaking of Venus rotating, it also does something very weird. The planet itself rotates in the opposite direction to Earth and nearly all the other planets in the solar system. Now, I'm no scientist, but does that mean if I jump on Venus, will time move backward for me? Will I get younger? I mean, that's what happened in Superman. He rotated the Earth the other way, and then that made time go backwards, so yeah, that's how it works, right? The surface gravity on Venus is about 91% the surface gravity of Earth. So if you weighed like 100 pounds on Earth, you would weigh 91 pounds on Venus. Simple maths. We know that it takes Venus 243 days to rotate. Well, surprisingly, it takes 224 days for it to revolve around the sun. Meaning that if I lived on Venus my entire life, I would be 41.5 Venusian years old. Ooh. Ooh, I like that one. Now, if you've seen those stats and wonder why we aren't trying to live on Venus instead, well, it's because Venus's surface temperature is hot enough to melt lead. So that's why we're not living there. Now, I should quickly address this card's name. The fact that it doesn't contain the at the start of its English name. I mean, every other one contains a the at the start, not including elemental hero Terra Firma. What's the deal with this? Well, according to a Pojo post by Kevin Tuart, the reason why this card does not have the word the at the beginning of this card's name is because Kevin was on an extended vacation at the time. So they just made a mistake. Not surprisingly, afterwards, when they interviewed him asking him if he was ever going to try and change it, he basically said he couldn't be bothered. The Tripper Mercury. When this card is tribute summoned, you can change all monsters on the field to face up attack position. You can tribute 3 monsters to tribute summon, but not set this card. If summoned this way, while this card is on the field, all monsters your opponent controls lose attack equal to their original attack. This card can make a second attack during each battle phase. The Tripper Mercury was wielded by Jesse Anderson in the Yu-Gi-Oh manga. It is based on the planet Mercury, the smallest and innermost planet in the solar system. Its orbital period around the sun takes 88 days, which is the shortest of all the planets in the solar system. The diameter of Mercury is 30% the diameter of Earth, which coincidentally is the same amount of surface gravity you would experience on Mercury, 38% that of Earth's. Also, in comparison to Earth, a day on Mercury is 58 days, 15 hours, and 30 minutes long. Oh, I forgot to mention, if I'd lived on Mercury my entire life with its like 88-day revolution around the sun, I would be 106.1 Mercurian years old. Mercurian? Oh, this is getting better. Its water attribute is a reference to the Japanese kanji of the planet, which literally translates to water star. And this card's OCG effect is its manga effect, with the effect of forbidden substance integrated into it, which coincidentally was used with it in the manga. And lastly, the Supremacy Sun. Cannot be special summoned except by its own effect. After this face-up card on the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard during the standby phase of the next turn, you can discard 1 card, special summon this card from the graveyard. The Supremacy Sun was wielded by Principal Mackenzie in the Yu-Gi-Oh manga. It is based, of course, on the Sun, the largest object in our solar system. The Sun's core is approximately 15.6 million Kelvin in temperature, with a pressure of 250 billion atmospheres. At the center of the core, the Sun's density is more than 150 times that of water, so you probably wouldn't be able to swim through it, for many reasons. The Sun takes roughly 24 days for itself to rotate. However, since the Sun can't rotate around itself, would you like to know how long it takes the Sun and our own solar system to rotate around the center of the Milky Way galaxy? Well, the answer is about 230 million years. It's quite a while. This monster, based on one of the brightest objects in our world, as well as the sun being associated with giving life, is in fact a dark attributed monster, as well as a fiend type monster. The explanation for this monster's classification is in the storyline of the manga. Tragoedia designed the card to mock the sun-worshipping priest who had punished him. Thus, the card's attributes reflect this. As well, behind the monster is a solar eclipse, which is literally blocking out the sun. As Principal Mackenzie wields the Supremacy Sun, as well, he is the main host of Tragoedia. These 2 monsters both are level 10 dark fiend type monsters that share the effect of special summoning themselves with a discard as a cost. Due to this as well, this card is the strongest of the legendary planets in terms of original attack and defense. And this card's effect is very similar to that of the sun, as when the sun disappears or this monster gets destroyed, it sets. Then, the next turn or day, it rises again. And with that, guys, that's another episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Trivia done. I want to give a big thank you to Phoenix Nova, who suggested this archetype, as well as gave me some talking points for the video. Thank you very much, Phoenix. But other than that, though, guys, thank you very much for watching, and catch you later.